Volumizing products promise fuller looking hair and lifted roots, but do they actually make a difference in naturally curly hair, or are they just sticky, overhyped, and not worth your time and money? Today we're testing it out with this side-by-side comparison, one routine using a popular volumizing foam and one without. We'll break down how these volumizing products work, when they help, and if they're right for you depending on your hair type. My name is Gina and welcome back to my channel. Here we talk all things naturally curly. I love simplifying things and really helping you problem solve with your curls. And I'm also a curl coach who helps my clients with this exact thing and figuring out what products they can eliminate and which products they need to add based on their specific hair type. Let's get started. For both routines, I'm doing the exact same thing, except for adding in that volumizer step, which I'll show you next. So we're first starting off with wetting our hair down. My hair is clean, it's just damp. I'm getting the right amount of water with my spray bottle. Then I'm applying my Curlsmith Miracle Shield, which is my heat protectant. This protects from UV rays, the sun, and heat from diffusing. I'm applying that all over evenly and then brushing it through with my Curl Keeper brush just to make sure it's evenly distributed. Step 2 is the volumizer. So I went with the Innersense I Create Lift volumizing foam for this comparison routine because it's a very popular volumizing product. I find a lot of my clients and viewers use this hoping to get more volume, so I wanted to put it to the test to see if it actually makes a difference. So this is the routine where I'm using the volumizing foam. I decided to apply it first before my gel because I tend to find I get the best results with the strongest hold product on top, and foams don't have much hold. Then I'm just brushing it through to ensure it's evenly distributed, making sure I can feel that product all over my hair from root to tip. And I'm also running my hands through my hair just to lift the hair up off the scalp because you don't want it to be stuck down. The curls aren't going to form. So I just go through, lift everything. That way I have a nice base to start styling and applying my gel. So this product is not really creating much volume at this step yet. I did want to show you just a little before and after and check in to see how we're doing on volume, but so far no volume from this product. Back to our side-by-side routine, I'm going to be applying the Jessicurl Spiralicious styling gel in sections. So I did use the gel in both routines. So without the foam, I went straight to the gel after my heat protectant. So I talk a lot about simplifying your routines and minimizing products wherever possible. And since the Innersense I Create Lift foam doesn't have enough hold, I had to use the gel on top because you always want the strongest hold product on top. To keep this comparison as much as the same as possible, I'm using the exact same amount of gel, and I'm also applying the same amount in each section. I went with the Jessicurl gel because I've used it on its own before, so I know how it performs by itself. It's pretty low in moisture, which prevents my hair from getting weighed down. It's also not texturizing, so it won't create volume or interfere with the results when using it alone or with the foam. I know it's just purely going to provide me with some hold and humidity protection. I'm basically doing my brushless styling technique that I've shown recently, where I just smooth the hair out with my hands, and then I also do some finger coiling. I do use my Curl Keeper brush sometimes to just smooth out the sections because I find that's much faster, but I'm not really using the brush to define the curls like you would when you brush style. I'm mainly using the brush to get everything smoothed out and nice and even, and then going in and using my hands to style the hair. So I'm not really brush styling, but I'm also not doing my full brushless routine, if that makes sense. But I wanted to keep my styling routine pretty basic. I didn't want to do a lot to actually create a ton of volume because we really need to be able to tell if the foam is making a difference. So I try to keep my actual styling techniques pretty minimal and the same that I normally do. The same parting as well. I did my usual side part that I don't take too far back. I've also been doing this technique on the top section of my hair where I try and finger coil the hair right at the root. I find that that helps me get some more volume because my curls do start right at the root in this area, and when I define them individually, it tends to give me a little bit more lift. One thing I did notice that was different between the two routines is I had more slip in my hair with the foam plus the gel compared to the gel by itself. I think the foam is fairly moisturizing. It's not like those types of foams that are super sticky that don't provide any moisture and just make your hair feel kind of gross. This one actually did make it feel fairly soft, so keep that in mind depending on your hair type if you need softness or not. It actually felt almost like I had a cream in my hair without being super creamy, if that makes sense. But when I was styling with just the Jessicurl gel, I was finding it difficult to finger coil. I had to keep adding some more water to my hands. That way I had some slip because there wasn't much slip with this product by itself. I've definitely noticed that whenever I use use this gel by itself, my hair ends up a little bit dry for my hair type. I need slightly more moisture. So I usually end up pairing this with a cream, but I was able to get through finger coiling. I tried to keep the curl clump size the same too, so we could really compare. Once I was done styling, I just reached my hand underneath to kind of break up the section lines and hide my scalp. And then I was just fixing some of the pieces on top to ensure that the curls were actually defined at the root, because that's also going to help give me a little bit of volume. And I did that on both sides to keep the routines pretty much exactly the same. I also check the back to make sure that my scalp is covered, and I also like to make sure that the curl clump size isn't too large. Then I'm taking my hair towel and I'm using it to gently scrunch the hair. This is called microplopping. It basically removes the excess water to help speed up your dry time, and it can increase your hold if you go in with that second layer of gel. So I use the same amount of gel on both sides. I also mix the gel with a little bit of water just so I'm not applying too much product, and then I just gently glaze that product in. I do a little bit of praying hands on the areas that are stubborn and kind of stringy for me. I just go around and make sure I have a light glaze of product. I'm not disturbing the curl clumps that I just created. I'm mainly just getting a second light coat of gel, because this gel doesn't give me enough hold or humidity protection if I skip this step. So I have to add in this extra coat of gel. You could also do a hairspray at this step or skip microplopping if you don't find that you have trouble with your hair taking a while to dry. So far, I'm not really seeing a difference in my hair, but my hair is wet. Pretty much looks identical to me. Let me know what you think so far in the comments below, but let's get on to diffusing. Step number 5 is to diffuse, and in both routines, I'm doing my usual diffusing techniques. So I like diffusing upside down just to hit the front area, then I diffuse side to side. That way I can really get the underside area and make sure everything is nice and even. I also really like using the diffuser prongs to lift the roots. With the Curlsmith Diffusion hair dryer, it makes it really easy to create root lift because the prongs easily reach the roots, and it has air holes in the prongs, so that way the air actually reaches the roots, which really creates a lot of lift. Your diffuser design matters when it comes to creating volume. Creating more volume in your hair really does come down to styling techniques and diffusing techniques. That's going to create more volume really than any volumizing product ever could. So if you're air drying and you're not getting volume, that's likely why. While I diffuse, I wanted to talk about how volumizing products differ and how do you choose them based on your hair type. So volumizing products are those add-in products that you use with other stylers. They come in various formats. Foams, which is what I use today. Mousses is similar. They just have more hold compared to foams. Liquid sprays, powders, aerosols, lotion, but they are going to vary based on the texture and grit level. I thought this foam was going to give me more texture and grit, but it seemed to be more of a conditioning type of foam, like it was more moisturizing and a little bit softening compared to being a high level of texture and grit. Whereas I've tried other volumizing products, they give a lot of texture, which is that sticky, tacky feeling that almost makes the hair feel like you have a hairspray. But they're also going to vary on hold. Some of these volumizing products don't provide any hold, some provide hold. And then they also vary based on the moisture and conditioning level. So this foam ended up being fairly moisturizing in my hair, whereas some of them have the opposite effect, like a salt spray, and can be more drying. If your hair is naturally very soft and silky, then you probably do need some of that texture and grit to help counteract some of that, and also focus on very low moisture products. So look at your hairsprays, salt sprays, maybe a foam that isn't moisturizing and has a lot of texture and grit. If your hair is more of a rough texture, you might not need as much texture and grit. That's similar to my hair type. You might like something that's a little bit more moisturizing and conditioning, like a volumizing lotion or a very moisturizing foam. I created a helpful chart that you can check out on the blog post that breaks all of this down for you, so that way you can assess which type of volumizer that you need based on your hair type. A link for that will be down below. Let's do another check-in. This is my hair still in the cast right after I finished diffusing, and I can definitely tell a difference so far. Let me know in the comments which differences you spot so far, but stay tuned because I'm going to be breaking down exactly what is different and why as we fluff out the cast in just a moment. The 6th step is to scrunch out the crunch. Now, usually I do break the cast, that way I get a softer look, but if you want to keep the cast in, it will actually make your hair last a little bit longer. But you want to wait until your hair is completely dry, and I'm also using my dry hands to break the cast. I don't like using oils or anything like that because they can really just soften my hold. But this step is key if you want more volume. You have to have that softer look in your hair so the hair can expand without the cast, but it will still have hold to it if you used a good strong hold gel like I used today. So at this point, if you feel like you need more texture and grit, that's where I would would add in a hairspray as a finisher instead of using an oil or something like that. Having that texture and grit in your hair can also make your loose curls and waves last a lot longer to where you don't have to do as much refreshing. But again, I don't really have much texture and grit in my hair today from that foam, which really surprised me. What do you all think of these results from the routine using the Innersense foam plus the Jessicurl gel? I personally feel like I have about the same amount of volume that I usually do. The curl clump size looks about the same as well. I did my usual finger coiling techniques. I did get good volume at the root thanks to the parting technique that I've been doing and the finger coiling of the hairs right around the crown area and around the part. That has really helped me get more volume and just not taking my part too far back. Overall, my hair feels pretty soft. I don't have any texture and grit to my hair that I can feel, which is odd because I considered this foam to be a high level of grit because that's what I recall it being last time that I really tested this out. And I'm pretty sure I used a lot more of the foam then. I think with these types of products, sometimes the more that you use, and if you use too much, you definitely get that texture and grit to your hair. I recall trying this back when I first initially tried it and I used it by itself and I had to really layer it on trying to get that hold out of it because it is a lighter hold product. And I recall getting quite a bit of texture and grit. So I'm surprised that I don't have any. I don't know if the addition of the Jessicurl gel is creating additional softness, but this gel in particular is not really softening. It's just a very medium type of gel to where it's not softening, it's not texturizing and gritty, it's just right in between, which is why I went with it. But it does have a couple of ingredients that are somewhat conditioning, so that could be part of it. But usually when adding in some sort of volumizer like a foam, I usually do have some texture. Now my hair doesn't feel weighed down, it feels very lightweight and airy, which is good. It's not reducing my volume, but I'm not feeling any of that texture and grit. My roots actually feel pretty clean, but it's not overly soft, which is good. So this could be a good option for those of you who don't want texture and grit and you also don't want your hair to be too soft and weighed down. I do feel like I'm right in between those two things. I also didn't get much of a gel cast, and I think that's because of the foam being underneath the gel. I've talked about this before, but if you have any product on underneath of your gel, especially something that is conditioning, it's going to reduce the hold of your gel. Now, a foam doesn't have a ton of conditioning ingredients, but it is moisturizing because it has things like aloe in it and glycerin and those sort of things and a couple of oils low on the list, but it's also a water-based foam. So water underneath of your gel, the more water in your hair, it's going to soften your hold. So I didn't really get much of a gel cast, and I definitely think it was due to this compared to when I use the Jessicurl gel by itself and I style on damp hair, I usually get more hold out of it. And that was even with the microplopping step. So I definitely noticed a difference there. It's definitely looking soft in some areas. I have just some normal natural frizz, like a couple frizzy pieces. I didn't even really need to scrunch out much of the cast. I went outside after I finished diffusing for maybe 5 minutes or so, and I could already feel it starting to puff up a little bit from the humidity, so I don't know how long this will last. I will definitely do a day 2 update to see, but I just wanted to share those differences that I'm noticing compared to when I first tested the Innersense foam and what I recall from that. These are my final results with using just the Jessicurl gel by itself. The biggest difference that I noticed was actually in the hold. When I use the Jessicurl gel alone, I get a lot more hold. I had much more of a gel cast when my hair dried, mainly in the areas where I added extra gel after microplopping, specifically in these sections. I had quite a bit of a cast. The other areas that didn't get much gel on that second coat didn't have as much of a cast. They were much softer, just like on the previous routine. So that really goes to show that using anything, especially a foam underneath of your gel, is likely softening your hold because foams are watery, some of them are conditioning. I definitely think the Innersense foam has some conditioning ingredients in it, or at least a conditioning effect on the hair, while still being very lightweight, which is nice, but it did soften my gel cast and it also helped to moisturize and give my hair additional slip. On the routine where I just used the Jessicurl gel, I didn't have as much slip in my hair. My hands were grabbing more and not gliding as easily on my hair, which usually happens when I'm using a low moisture gel with not much conditioning in it, and if I don't have a leave-in or a cream or something underneath. So I was surprised that the foam did make that much of a difference when it comes to that conditioning effect and that slip on the hair, because it is just, a foamy water-based product. You wouldn't think of that as being a conditioning product, but that definitely leads me to think that could be an option for those of you who need some moisture under your products, but you don't want your hair to get weighed down from a creamy leave-in or a curl cream. You could opt for a foam and it gives a similar effect. Now, it definitely softened the hold, which is always the trade-off when you start to layer products. You're not going to get as much hold, especially when they have water and conditioning ingredients in them. The gel doesn't cast as easily. So I'm curious to see how well this is going to hold up. We are dealing with extreme heat and humidity right now. I definitely would have left that cast in if I wasn't filming, but I wanted to show you my final results after breaking the cast and scrunching out the cast. In terms of volume, I feel like it looks exactly the same. I don't notice much of a difference in volume because I scrunched out that cast. If I left the cast in, I would have less volume with this routine, but by breaking the cast, it allows the hair to expand more. You get a little bit of that natural frizz. My curl clump size looks the same. The amount of frizz I have looks the same. I always just have a little bit of normal natural frizz like in this section and also on top. The root volume looks the same. I don't notice much of a difference in terms of fullness, so how sparse and how see-through my hair looks. It looks about the same. It doesn't look any more or less sparse. Let's see how well this hair holds up into day 2. So as you can see, I definitely have quite a bit of frizz. I dealt with a ton of high heat and humidity during both of these tests, so I knew my hair wasn't going to hold up as well as it normally does. But with the Volumizer, my hair looks a little bit fuller, but it's also frizzier because I had less hold. The Volumizer, or that foam that I used, really softened my hold and was actually a little bit conditioning, which reduced the hold of my gel, therefore leading to more frizz on day 2, which created a little bit more fullness, but not enough to make a huge difference. Without the Volumizer, my hair is still definitely frizzy. I definitely have some stringy areas in the front corners of my hair that always frizz up pretty bad in humidity, but overall, it doesn't look quite as frizzy to me as the other side. So I definitely had a little bit more hold. I was able to retain a little bit more of my cast. So there is always a trade-off there. If you want more volume and fullness, you probably need a little bit less hold to fill in your hair more if you're really trying to get more fullness, whereas if you need more hold and control, you might reduce your volume a little bit. It's really tough to balance both of them. I feel like I do strike a pretty good balance though for my hair type. When I do just use the gel, I use my volumizing styling techniques and diffusing techniques to still create some volume even with having stronger hold in my hair. Will volumizing products make a difference in your specific hair? Well, the short answer is it really just depends. If your hair is fine or it's overly soft or very silky, maybe it's low porosity, you could probably benefit from some sort of product that provides that texture and grit. This is going to help fine hair or even wavy and loose curl types retain their shape and their structure and not fall limp as easily. Volumizing products that don't really provide much texture and grit or hold to the hair are probably not going to make much of a difference, especially when it comes to the longevity of your volume, because there's not that grip there in your hair. And if anything, they might actually hurt the hold in your hair if they're just softening up your cast. The bottom line is volumizing products can work for some hair types. It's really going to depend on the ingredients and the level of texture and grit in that volumizing product. And the amount of volume that you get is largely dependent on your styling techniques and your hair's natural density and curl pattern. And the only way to truly know if a product is going to make a difference in your hair or not is to put it to the test. You want to make sure that you're only changing that one thing in your routine so that way you can accurately test and track your results and measure those results. If you don't already have my curly hair tracker and planner, I highly recommend downloading it, especially for things like this, because it allows you to track those differences in your results and really document your routine. And then you can analyze those results to see what actually made a difference. This is game changing for me when I am testing out new products because I can document when I tested them, what my results are, and even add photos of my results, which really allows me to see those differences. Choosing the right products for your specific hair needs and learning how to adjust your expectations based on your natural hair type is something that I help my curl coaching clients learn through my group coaching program. If this is something that you need in your life, I will have the link for that down below. You have until tomorrow, March 30th, to register for this summer program. Enrollment's not going to open again until the fall, so if you want to get in for the summer program, definitely do that before enrollment closes. We're going to be covering so many common summer issues and also addressing what you need specifically in this time. So all of the content is catered directly towards your specific needs. I chat with you through the portal. We meet in weekly live group coaching calls. That way I can put together a customized routine just for you and audit your current routine. If you want even more recommendations when it comes to volumizing products, check out the recent video that I did. I will have it linked right here on the screen. It's all about the best volumizing products from each category. So I include hairspray, foams, texturizing sprays, and much more. So I will talk to you over in that video. Bye everyone.